Hi, I'm David. This is my home in Corpus Christi, Texas, in the Del Mar neighborhood. I have a chicken coop that I've had for about 6 years now. I guess I'm a chicken coop enthusiast, also a gardening enthusiast, and one of the founders of Grow Local, I guess. But we we've worked hard to get the chicken coop regulations established here in Corpus, and we now have a pretty active chicken community here. So it's kind of exciting to see. This year, I bought two new chicks, and I noticed that the um, the demand for chicks is huge this year. So it's really kind of exciting to see this chicken coop movement, or this backyard chicken movement, really taking off. So we're going to talk about chickens today. We're going to talk about what you need to have, the requirements for a chicken coop. For a brooder, we have the chicks inside, so we'll be able to bring them out today for the first time, and it's kind of exciting. Chickens. Well, I was not a homeowner for a long time, like most people. I lived in apartments, and but I grew up with my grandfather had 1 acre and surrounded by 3 acres of chicken farm. So I heard them all my life, and he also was an avid gardener. So I grew up with this longing to eventually have my own piece of land and be able to plant things, and after that we decided to go ahead and get chickens, and the rest is history. It's been 6 years now, I believe, since I got my first chicken. So, and now we have 7. I just love the idea of sufficiency, self-sufficiency. The fact that they're a fantastic pet because they're really the only pet that gives you food, as far as I know. If they're, I mean, they're really kind of they don't require a whole lot of maintenance. They're just fun to look at. It's like a backyard aquarium. That's what we used to talk about. That you can really just sit at your window and watch the chickens, and it's just like watching an aquarium. They're fantastic. They're not exactly dog friendly. They don't come when you call or anything, but they're still great to have. They're just fun to have around the house. I mean, it seems to me like a lot of people are interested in having chickens. I think a lot of people are really into that idea of a certain amount of self-sufficiency. It's something you really appreciate, to be able to say, what am I going to go to HEB and buy? And instead, you can say, what do I have growing in the backyard? What can I make out of what's growing in my yard? And having backyard chickens just adds to that mix. You now have eggs that you can mix into, you know. Plus, you've got these, fantastic creatures that are always there and giving you entertainment. Chickens produce an awful lot of waste. I'll be perfectly honest. Now, it's perfect candidate for composting if you want to take the chicken manure, chicken poop, and and build it into your composting. They also eat bugs. They will keep your yard clean of bugs for the most part if you're able to free range. Um, One problem, of course, is if you have gardens, you have to keep the chickens out of the garden, or you'll lose your small plants. There are certain plants they won't bother, but I have a small fence around my garden, which is only about 2 feet high, and it's enough to keep them out. They don't seem to bother. There's really not much to having chickens except for the initial investment in time in either buying or building your first coop. Once it's built, there's really not much to it. Clean it every once in a while. So if you're interested in buying chickens, the local feed stores is the way or who you probably want to start with. They usually will sell an organic feed as well as a less expensive regular food. Typically, they will not sell chickens in your area that don't thrive in your area. Now, in Corpus Christi, we don't ever have cold enough temperatures to worry about. I think I remember reading that chickens are good to about 14 degrees. We don't really ever see 14 degrees in Corpus Christi. And they are fairly good at self-regulating their temperature. They will sleep close together or further apart if they want to. They generate a lot of heat themselves, so they take care of themselves pretty well. Um, When they're chicks, when they're baby chicks, they cannot regulate the temperature yet. So we'll look at the rooter here in a minute. I've never had a problem with the chickens trying to escape. I mean, chickens are homebodies. They have a very limited range that they want to go. They don't want to get too far away from their home. They sleep in the same spot every night. They automatically just go up to their perch every night. They do it all themselves. They don't really require any, outside intervention to wake up and to do their business, make their eggs, and they put themselves to bed every night. One of the most common questions is, do you need a rooster to have eggs? And of course, that you do not. Chickens lay eggs no matter what. They will just continuously lay eggs. They will not become chickens because they're not fertilized. If you want a fertile egg, you have to have a rooster. But a chicken will lay eggs from about 5 months to about 4 years, till they're 4 years old, roughly one a day. Not quite one a day. I think it would be unusual. I think the world record, if I remember correctly, was about that. One a day, would be 365 a year, something like that. I don't think so. I think it's just random. They just when they need to, they climb up into their coop, find the laying box. They lay in the same place every day. Like I said, they're creatures of habit. You show them where to go, and that's where they'll go for the rest of their lives. I think the lifespan of a chicken is around 7 years. The lifespan of their laying periods ends around the 4-year range. So my chickens are all about 4 years old right now. We're not getting nearly as many eggs as we used to. So they'll be pets. And we have 2 new chickens in there that are going to pick up where they're letting off. And so, but yeah, they have about a 4-year life cycle of laying life cycle, and then a 7-year living life cycle. So that's something to consider. Professionals who raise chickens, there's a very small window when they're first born when you can look and you can tell the sex of the chicken with almost certainty. When they get to be about 1 or 2 days old, it's too late. So they're indistinguishable, male and female, until they get to about 5-6 months. And then if you find out you have a rooster and you live in the city, you have no choice. You have to get rid of it. So to get started, you definitely need to know your local regulations. In Corpus, you can have 7 hens. You cannot have any roosters. The coop itself has to be 25 feet from your neighbor's dwelling, and the coop structure, the coop itself, the sleeping area, would be no bigger than 5 foot by 5 foot by 5 foot. The run, if you have a run, can be up to 20 feet by 20 feet. So those are the sizes. And then you have to have a 6-foot fence around your property. Oh, and the wings of the chickens should be clipped to prevent flight. Flight is not usually a risk with chickens anyway, but that's one of the regulations. And a backyard chicken keeper in Corpus Christi is not allowed to use it for a commercial reason. You can't sell your eggs. You cannot. That's a whole different level of regulations. So it's meant to be for your family's use only. It's not something you can take and sell at the farmer's market. The elements of a coop, you have the coop, which is where they will sleep. In my case, the coop is above the run. I've built a run. A run is not strictly necessary, but I would definitely recommend having an enclosed run where they can be active if it's raining and for some reason you cannot have them free ranging. The run can be, as I said, in Corpus Christi, can be 20 feet by 20 feet. In this case, it's about 20 feet long and not nearly that wide, but it gives them plenty of room underneath to be active during the day, even if it's raining outside. So in my case, this was an old cabinet that I found on the side of the road. These were drawers, and this is the cabinets on either side. I repurposed this as a kind of the nesting area. Some supplies here. This is the food. This is an electric motor for a door. I'll show you in a minute. The door comes down automatically every night. And here's an egg. So I have 2 nesting boxes. You need to have 1 nesting box basically for every three hens. But like I said, they'll just find this area every time they need to lay an egg. They'll come back to the same area. They usually will use the same box for some reason. You'll see one lined up waiting for the box that they want. Sometimes even there's one available, but that's up to them. The nesting area is below where they sleep. You always want to make sure the highest area in the coop is the roosting area, because they'll always seek the highest area when they're trying to sleep. So one of the things you want to do if you have the room is make everything accessible. It's really helpful to be able to walk inside your coop. It is absolutely not necessary, but for cleaning purposes, it's so nice that I can be inside here and standing up instead of having to stoop down because I built it too small. If you have the room, I would definitely give them a little more room like this. This is a ramp that I built that they walk up to get into their coop every night. I'll show you that. And again, everything needs to be easily accessible for cleaning purposes. This is where they sleep every night. The recommendation is, if I remember correctly, 14 inches of roost space for every chicken. They don't take anywhere near that in my experience. So I had 2 rows. They always end up on the same one anyway, so I just removed it. This is plenty of space for them. They sleep pretty well bunched together. The only thing that I added after my initial research was this door here to access this poop board, which underneath where they sleep, they do generate a lot of waste. That's a straight up honest. Chickens generate a lot of waste. They don't pee. They have it's all one. It all comes out of the same vent, they call it, and it's quite a bit, like I said. So you want it to be easily accessible to clean. This board allows me to pull it out every day and just scrape it off into the compost. It's a nice addition. It's not strictly necessary. I also made the floor of the coop a mesh. This can be solid, but again, it's more of a cleaning issue. And then I use pine shavings. You can use straw or hay at the bottom of the coop for easy cleaning. You want to give them access to oyster shell for calcium, I believe. Food is another thing that you want to be ideally able to fill from outside the coop. You don't really want to have to come in the coop any more than you need to. So I've got a PVC feeder that is accessible from outside. This holds about 5 days worth of food. Waters, they want to have plenty of water. So I've got 2 waterers here. That actually could be bigger because you need to fill the waters every couple of days. Another thing that's absolutely essential is that they have enough ventilation. You can't really have too much ventilation. What you can have is too much of a draft. So you have to kind of, it's a trade-off. But I have this mesh around the top of the thing, which produces, and also a mesh underneath. So I think I have plenty of ventilation, but their poop has real high in ammonia, so you want to make sure there's ventilation for that, and also, like I said, they generate a lot of heat, so you want it to keep cool in the summer. Anyway, so there's ventilation around the top. There's ventilation at the bottom of mine. There's a window here also. The other thing is security. You have to. Now I've used hardware cloth here. Chicken wire is questionable as a coop. As a coop fencing, I would not recommend chicken wire because it certainly will keep the chickens in, but it won't necessarily keep the predators out. So hardware cloth secured at the bottom with fender washers and screws, that will keep anything out. Also, you want to bury the wire about a foot below the surface of the earth, or at least out from the coop, so that animals can't dig in there. There are predators that will be going after your chickens. That's just the way it is. So one of the things you definitely want to do at night is close them in their coop. That can be done manually, which we did for a long time, or in this case, I bought a motor, electric motor that's on a timer, and at night, after I know that they've gone to bed, the door will slowly close, and then it opens up in the morning for them to go about the day. So this is a brooder. The brooder can be pretty simple. You could probably just use a big plastic tub if you wanted to. In my case, I just used some scrap lumber and built a mesh top. They learn to fly pretty quick, surprisingly fast. Within a week or so, you'll have to have a lid on it to keep them from flying out. But the elements of a brooder are a heat source, because when they're little chicks, they cannot regulate their temperature yet. They need about 90 to 95 degrees their first week of life, and then drop about 5 degrees every week after that until they're 4 to 5 weeks old, and they can go outside and live, normally. But so inside this brooder, I've got a food source, water, and heat, and then I've got a thermometer to make sure that there's a place that's up to the temperature they need. They will regulate themselves pretty easily. They'll find the spot under the light or close to the light that is the temperature that they want. So there's not much to it really. These chicks are exactly a month old. So they're ready to go outside for the first time today. And another thing with chicks is if you handle them from the time they're chicks, they're pretty well acclimated to you. They don't seem to mind so much. They'll climb all over you. So we certainly don't provide all of our food out of our backyard, but it is nice to have produce and to have happy, healthy hens that we have as pets, and we have this beautiful byproduct of a completely organic egg. We know exactly what went into the diet of the chickens, and we can provide at least this piece of our diet. We know exactly what we're giving our kids, and it's just really nice to have some parts of our diet that we can have complete control over, even if we can't control everything.